All right, in this video, we're going to be building the contemporary gazebo from Costco. We're going to do step by step. This is a video you're probably going to want to see if you bought one of these, because there's a lot of moving parts to this assembly. Hope this video helps you out. Enjoy. All right, in this video, we're going to be assembling the contemporary gazebo from Yardistry. Now, I got this from Costco. Comes in 4 large boxes. We had it delivered to the house.
Woohoo, it's here.
Now, ahead of time, what I did, I went online to the Yardistry website. I found the manual for the contemporary gazebo, and I looked at the footprint of where the posts are going to land. And what I did ahead of time, I poured some concrete squares where the legs of the gazebo are going to go. Now, it's probably better to just pour a concrete pad, but in my case, I have an existing concrete pad here. One leg's going to go on there, a couple more over there. I did another concrete pad over here. You can kind of see where I got the 2 green umbrellas set up. That's where the 2 back posts are going to go for this. I guess step 1, I'm going to carry all the parts from where I have it in the garage out to where we're going to build it, and we'll get on with the assembly. I'm going to start off by setting up a couple tables just to work off of. Now, I know from the previous time we built a Yardistry pavilion, we started off with the legs. So as I carry everything out, anything that looks like a leg is going to go on these tables. I would say this looks like a post. Well, at least 3 more of these to carry. There, I'll move some stuff with the wheelbarrow here from the boxes over to where we're building. Either the kit came with some really big square hammers, or these are post extensions probably. Now you see how these legs are hollow? Keep in mind you could have some parts inside, and I believe these are the pieces for the roof. There we are. In case you're missing pieces, check the legs. Well, I opened the 2 smaller boxes. So far, no building manual. On to the next 2. Okay, now I'm down to the last 2 larger boxes. Good thing is, I now found the instructions. So I'm going to break down what's in that box, bring it back here, lay it out, just so we know where everything's at. There, now that we got all the boxes emptied, carried around to the back, got all the pieces all laid out. I put all like looking pieces together, so when we get to those parts of the instructions, it'll be easier to find. All right, now it's time for the build. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open the instructions. We're going to go through step by step and follow along, and I'll show you what I'm doing. All right, I got the instructions here. It says to start with the 2 front posts, and we're going to put this bottom bracket on that you're going to use later to anchor it down to the concrete pad. So, need to identify the front posts. Now the front posts are going to have this hole on both sides because it's going to set this at the top after. Okay, these have solid tops here, so I know these are my back posts. Here's my top post. Now what I want to do, because I got these big holes drilled on this side, and I got 2 here, I know this is the top. So we're going to flip this around so that all our bottoms are facing this way. Okay, now I kind of know from unpacking everything where things are. These are all my large bolts, screws. Just gonna kind of lay these out a little bit so I know what I'm looking for when I need it. They're also all nicely labeled. So I found 2 bags of these post mount plinths, as it says in the instructions. And I found a bag of number 12 by 2 inch pan head screws it says to mount these with. So let's go ahead and mount those on the bottom of the post. So it's probably a good idea when you start opening these bags to kind of keep it on a tray so they don't roll off your table, get lost. But I like to keep the bag nearby so that it's still nicely labeled in case I'm looking for it later. So we're just unwrapping all our pieces here. So of course, this flat side is going to be on the bottom side. We're going to want that level with the post so that when you put it down, it's the same height. Okay, we got 2 different parts. That's going to slide in like that. It's going to fit snugly like that. Then this is going to go on the post, something like this. Just check everything again. Now, we'll tighten the 1 screw in. Double check this side. Still good. Screw this side in. Okay, now we're just going to rotate the post 90 degrees. We'll set 2 screws in here. Now every one of these brackets has 1 corner here and a straight on this side. So this is part of the other bracket is going to go over top of that. So let's slip this in there like that. Okay. Get that true. Tighten this in. Okay, now we'll just rotate it again, work our way around. And we're just going to slide that into there, slide that into there, and level this up with the bottom. All right, 1 more to put in. Okay, here's how it's going to look when it's all done. You can see I got that all flush with the bottom of the wood. using that level just to keep everything straight. Okay, now we're going to do our other front posts the same way. By putting this piece in, it just helps me get the proper location of this piece this way. You're going to find with this piece inserted all the way this piece, when you go to put this one in, you're going to have to slide it out. You're going to have to like slide it out of there to accept that piece. That way you can find the proper distance. Okay, again, make sure we're flush with the bottom, and then we screw it in. Now you want to make sure that you're fitting in on the bottom side on these two pieces, then also finding the right distance for this piece this way. Now next on the instructions, we're going to put this extension piece on the upper part of our front posts. Then we're going to be inserting our post extension because the roof is higher on one side of the gazebo to the other. So this is going to make our front post taller. All right, here we are at the other side of the post. Here's our extension cover, or what do they call it? Post joint cover. Now you can see I got a groove, a hole, and a hole. So what I need to do, because these are left and right now we're building the right post. So I need to make sure that this groove lines up with there, and the part where the other groove is, it's going to line up with this other hole. So there, and then this there. That's the only thing to keep in mind. All right, here's our post extension. You can see, let's pay attention to these holes here. So I got this hole, this hole. I also have this hole on the side for this hole. So we're just going to line them up, insert it in, and there we have it. Okay, now we're going to do our left post here. Kind of the same routine. Kind of the same way. What I'm going to do is orientate it the same way so we can see. So again, I'm going to have these two holes here and then the one on the side.
One's right, one's left?
Yes. Oh, it only goes one way.
And turn it one more time.
Oh no, that's right. No.
Now you're making two the same. Look, just turn it portion. There you go. Wouldn't that be right now?
Now when I go to do my left post, I got the opening for the two holes here, and I got the other opening where this hole is on the right side. So we just got to make sure to get that right. Okay, so I got my groove here with the two holes, and of course I got this hole to line up with the other one, but my other groove is going to be on this side of the post. Then again, we're going to insert the extension, just lining up our both holes. There, now we got our left post in. Okay, now we're on to building some trusses. What I'm going to do is just put some cardboard on top of this and we'll start getting our pieces together. All right, the next step, the instructions got us working on the roof rafters here. You can see this one tapers down, smaller at one end than the other. So let's get those parts, put them on the cardboard. Matter of fact, I'll flip it around the other way. Okay, and the next part, we got the piece with this on it, a little bit shorter one. And of course, this is gonna fit into there. All right, here we're gonna use 4 5/16 by 1 3/4. And of course, we got washers and nuts for those. So I'll get our hardware together. We're gonna need 4 of everything. It's nice how all the hardware is labeled like this. Makes it easy to find everything. We're gonna slide this in and slide it all the way to our bolt holes line up. You can see if you put it the wrong way, these bolt holes aren't gonna line up. So you can only get it on the right way here. There we have it. Now, so when we're bolting this together, it says to put the bolt head on the outside of the assembly. So assuming this is the right side of the gazebo, like this will be the back, that'll be the front. You can put these bolts on the outside of the gazebo. So you got your bolt, your washer. It says put a second washer on the other side. Then a lock nut on the other side. I say tighten everything by hand, and we'll go back and tighten everything after. Here I got a 1/2 inch wrench, 1/2 inch ratchet. Just gonna put the head of the wrench on there. Now just tighten these up till they become tight, like snug, and then a little bit. You don't want to like crush this together. These are nylock nuts, so once they tighten on, they're not going to vibrate loose. So like I say, just tighten it up. You don't have to do a lot of strength there just to get them to lock in place. There. Now we got a front to back assembly made. So that'll be on the right side of the gazebo. Now we're going to make our front truss assembly. Okay. Now we got our front end truss, the one that's going to go across the front of the gazebo. So we got a piece to put on both sides of it. This side and another one over on the other side. Now this one's just going to fit straight in. Just like that. Our holes line up. Let's bolt this together. There again, just tighten it till you're there. Good enough. There, now we'll put our piece on the other side of this. Flip our piece around so I can show you what we're doing. Now it's important to note the upper part of this truss has these tiny holes. And I believe that's going to come in when you put the roof on. So these have to be pointing toward the sky. Now what I want to do this time, make sure when you put your bolts in, your bolts are also going to be on the outside of the gazebo, but also match the other side where you put this piece in. Now I'll just bolt this together. There, I'm going to move these 2 truss assemblies out of the way. But I also want to keep them orientated so that I know like the front of this front truss, the top of this front truss is here. And our bolts are going to be on the outside. So I know I got to kind of flip this around. And then we'll orientate this. So again, so our bolts are on the outside. This one's going to come like on this side. And then we'll work on the back truss and the other tapered truss for the left side. Start off again with the tapered one. There. Now we'll bolt everything together the same way we did the other ones. making sure the heads of the bolts are always going to be on the outside of the gazebo. Okay, here's our back. Make sure our holes are at the top. So if this was at the back, I want my bolt hole to be bolted this way. Slide that in. If you want to get meticulous on this, each washer is going to have a round side and a flat side. I always put the round side on the outside and the flat side against what you're fastening. And I should mention, like I said earlier, we're using lock nuts. Now you can see that nut, it's got like a round edge on the one side and a flat edge on the other. You always want to start the flat edge into your thread first. And it goes on so far, and there's like a nylon thread inside that keeps it from vibrating loose or coming off without using a tool. Okay, this is going to be at the back. Holes for the roof facing up. So I'm going to flip this around so that our flat side of the bolts is facing the outside of the gazebo. Now we'll position this somewhat where it needs to be. Earlier in the instructions, I skipped the page where it said to put these flanges on the back posts. So I did that now. Now I'm going to work on the center truss panel. We'll put the pieces on there. We're working in a hot sun here. These pieces are hot. The center truss, it's going to have holes on one side that we're going to learn later that it's for the roof. So we got to make sure those holes are facing up toward the sky. We also have a hole in our end piece, I believe for the same reason. So let's make sure our holes line up, are on the right side. There, now we'll bolt this together. There, center truss is built. Keeping in mind those holes for your top. We'll set this aside. All right, we got our center truss built. Now the instructions got us moving on to our post. And of course, we're gonna start working at our front post assembly. We got our front truss here, so we'll get kind of things organized and ready and orientated on which way everything's got to go. So I'll start off by setting our post down and making sure we got the right angle set on our post. So we need to orientate this so we have one cutout facing the rear of the gazebo and the other cutout facing the other post. Something like this. Now we'll set our other front post in place. Okay, we get our other front post. It's going to go something like this. Then I got to go rotate it again, so I have one of those cutouts facing that post and the other cutout facing the back of the gazebo. So this is what I got so far here. Now we'll work on putting that front truss up. Okay, when you're putting your bolts in, you don't use this hole. So it's 1, 2, 3. And the same on the other post. come back and tighten that after. Okay. Now, okay, I'll switch spots. Okay, get some tools, tighten this up. Now we're going to use a 9/16 socket and wrench. Again, not going to over tighten it, just enough to snug it in. Okay, you're going to snug up one, then go back, check your other ones. See if you can snug them up to the same tightness. That should be good. Okay, so we're done putting our front truss on. Okay, here's our two back posts. You can see I got 2 holes there, and I got 3 holes here. The truss has 2 holes that we're going to bolt it to the posts. I have 10 inches between those holes. So we're going to look for a bolt pattern where I have 10 inches. So that's between these 2 holes here. So I need this and the other pole with those 2 holes to face each other. You don't have to try to line it up, I'll just... Okay, just support it for a sec. Start this. You're good? Still just resting it? Okay. Okay, so far here's what we got. We got our 4 posts up. We got our front truss and our rear truss put on. Now it's time to work on those side truss. Yeah.
Hurry up.
Yeah. Okay, just hold it steady. Yeah.
Really? Well, no one's gonna recognize me from the barbecue video. There you go. On the left of it. There you go.
Okay. What's that? Oh. Did you? Okay, we got our center trussed in. Now right here, we need to put a 5/16 leg. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna first drill a 1/8 hole, and then we'll install our leg. Half-inch socket, 5/16 leg, flat washer. There, now we'll do the same on the other post. Hit the center of that hole. Just firmly get a push to get it started. Once you get started, just keep cranking it in. There we go. Okay, now we're just going to line up our roof rafters here. We've got 5 shorter pieces. Now we're looking for 5 longer pieces.
Take a look at this again. This says short top A. This says short top B.
So it must be the angle. So if we,
But they're not
oh,
marked.
oh look. Yeah, so the groove's at the top, but the bolt's on this side, and the other bolt, so see the lap here is on this side, so this will probably go like this. And then the other one, things on the top, lap this way, like that. That'll be the third one. This one will be the 5th. Yeah, something like that.
So they're really the same part. They're just flipped over. Is that what you're saying? That angle on this angle?
Yep, all these are the same, and those there.
They're all on the same kind.
Yeah. Okay, we got 5 of our short pieces. You can see these angles are the same. I might come over here. You can see these angles are the same. Now we'll find the long pieces and bolt it to each one. And that long piece, that angle should match as well. So altogether, we're building a section of 5 pieces. Something like that. Ah! We'll separate these tables a little bit. Here, I'll pass that to you. Yeah, when we put has to, it should be like this with the grooves at the top. Just on the table just a little bit. You got to flip that one upside down. Yeah. And then go your way a bit. Okay. Okay, it'll be something like this. Now, like I say, we'll get the right hardware here and we'll bolt all this together. All right, so to fasten these together, we're going to need 2 of these T-nuts. And you can see it's got these sharp little spikes on it, so it's going to enter from one side. And the other side, we got a bolt, lock washer, and a flat. So we're just going to put that together. We're going to put all our bolts in from the one side. Just like that. Lock, flat, T-nut. Okay. The T-nuts go flush on the one side when we bolt those down, and we have one whole piece. Now let's do the rest of them. I'm thinking after doing a couple of these, it might be easier to push your bolt in the hole. Sometimes you got to wiggle the boards a little bit to get it through the second hole. And then take your T-nut and just start it a little bit into the bolt. Then hold your T-nut steady. Give this a bit of a turn. Then finish it off with the ratchet. go. 2 more. Okay, we got all the rafters set up, bolted together for the first set of rafters here in the instructions. Something to keep in mind, you got your 1388, 1390, 1393, like just pay attention to all those numbers because that's where you're going to orientate those pieces. You could find all those numbers where the lap joint is on the boards. See, there's a 1392. This way you grab the right piece when you go to bolt it together. You can see I got all the angles matching on both sides. Here. And over on this side. Now we're on to putting our fascia on both sides. All right, here's our fascia board. If you look at it, the corners aren't 90 degrees. So if you put this on wrong, and you put it, because these are cut at an angle, you're going to have the wrong angle here. So we'll flip that around, hold it there, and then we're flat on the top. That's what we want. These are all pre-drilled where you need to be. You want to keep it flush with the end board. Something like that. Now I'm just eyeballing the center of that board's where the 2 bolt holes are. All right, both fascia boards are on. Then these boards are all 1385. 1385. So we're gonna fit all these boards in there like that. Start at one end, work your way over. Okay. All right, now we got this bracket to install underneath the one of the cross members over here, and you can see there's a hole in the board. Here's our bracket, 5/16 bolt, washer, T-nut. Let's install that. So the long side up, and this looks like it's level with the bottom of the board. There we are. Now we're putting some blocks in under the rafters, the roof eave supports. We're going to install one of these pieces under here, here, and here. But to do that, these are pre-drilled using 3.5-inch screws. We're going to set it underneath this like that, and then we got to screw up from underneath. Now, got those in, the eave trough support. Looks like we're moving into our roofing material. All right, roof panel A, roof panel B. We got bottom, we got top, and it tells you what hardware to use. Okay, so looking at the instructions, we need an A panel and a B panel. Now these 2 panels were in the same box, but you have a bundle full of A's and a bundle full of B's. We're going to grab one from each pile. You can see it's got this protective coating on the outside and the other side. So both sides, that needs to be removed when we install it onto the wood frame. So for this wood frame, we're going to need 2 A's and 2 B's. As much as we can interpret the instructions here, that side of the panel where we have our angle slightly down, it's going to go up and make that angle true. We're calling that the top. So on the right side, looking toward the top, we're going to have 2 B panels, 2 A panels on this side. So we're just getting our roof panels ready. We'll set them on top, get them ready to screw in. Okay, got our B panel set on the bottom of our rail here. I'm just lining it up with this edge. Then I'm going 1 inch back over the rafter, over the fascia. Just like that. So according to the instructions here, we have a 1 inch overlap over our fascia at the bottom. And if you look where we have our bolt pattern there, every third one doesn't have a bolt. That's the top side of our panel, panel B. At this point, all we're doing is laying out our roof panels. So we got the coating off both sides of our B panel here. What I'm going to do is run a bead of caulking or sealant provided in the kit between the two ribs here. Then we're going to take the coating off the A panel here, overlap, and stick it over top of the sealant. Then we're going to move our way up. We're going to carefully line this up. Put the two panels flush with one another. Just make that sealant, give it some contact. Now we'll do our next two panels here at the upper side of our assembly here. Okay, now I'm going to do a bead of silicone across here where our bolt holes are. Now we're going to slide B panel onto the lower B panel. Now we're just going to overlap this panel till our holes line up. You can see my hole lining up here. I'll work my way down. Just like that. Okay, now I'll go get another A panel. Okay, we're gonna lay it down, overlapping again. Make sure bolt holes line up here. Work my way down. And that looks pretty good. Just want to make sure we're flush with the top here, and we'll start screwing it in with the proper hardware provided. Here's where you're going to have to be careful. You don't want to over tighten these. You just want to get them snug. You may even want to back off on the clutch if you have one on your drill gun. Okay, we're not putting one in the end for now. All the bolts in. Nothing along these edges, and nothing on the back, the low side of the roof. There, now we're on to our second roof panel. We built one, put it aside. I think I got a better idea how I can explain this to you. Make sure you do it. So according to the instructions, again, we're going to lay out the boards the same way. We need to identify each board. For instance, there's a 1386, a 1389, 1392, 1393. We're just going to lay it out exactly where it is because that's important. You can see where the lap joint is on each piece of wood. You're going to find the number. For instance, here's a 1391. Here's the 1386. Okay, we're going to fasten each one at the lap joint here with this combination. We got these T-nuts, flat washer, lock washer, and 5/16 bolt. So what we're going to do, put the lock washer on there, put your flat washer. Now it's important that this T-nut goes on the outside. That way you have a smooth surface when you go to put your roof panels together. Otherwise this head of the bolt would interfere with that. Alright, so let's bolt all these pieces together and we'll be on our way to start doing the roof panels. Okay, we got all our rafters here built. Now we'll see, we got our fascia board. Okay, you can see the angle of these should all match. Now if we go to put our fascia board on, you can see our fascia board is not 90 degrees. It's kind of hexagon shaped. So when you go to put it on, this should be level with that. You'll see it doesn't follow the same angle as your piece here. So you got to make sure like if you had a straight edge in here, it'd be nice and flat. There's pre-drilled holes here in the fascia board. We're going to use our 2.5-inch screw according to the instructions. And put that in. There, you got it.
Yeah, is it okay on here still?
Yep. All right, you can see I'm flush on the end there, flush on the top. Come around, got the same thing on that side. Now where we got our pre-drilled holes, I'm just going to eyeball that board so they're in the center of each one and drill the rest of them. Now we're going to go do the same thing at the lower end of the roof. Now this is going to be the top of the roof. You'd see that by if I were to lift, if this were the higher part of the roof, this fascia board becomes level when it's lifted. When you're going to the instructions and they're referring to the top of the roof, you need to look at this because there's top, there's left, there's right. It gets kind of confusing. That's why I'll be more thorough on the second roof panel we build. All right, so we got both our fascia boards on. Now it's time to put these cross members in, which they're all staged here. And again, if you look at the end, 1385, got them all ready. We're just going to lay those down. We're in the appropriate spots there, and we'll screw it down with the hardware provided according to the instructions. Now I suggest you put one screw on each piece on both sides. Measure corner to corner and see where you're at. You should be 155 and 1/8 inches corner to corner. If not, it's much easier to skew this as needed to get that proper measurement to make sure this whole thing's square. Once you do, finish screwing all the rest of the pieces in. Double check your measurement and then start with the roof panels. That's going to help you when you go to put your roof panels on. Okay, now we're on to the roof panels. This being the top, we're going to start off with our B, then our A, then our B, then our A. We're going to set one at a time, put our proper silicone sealant in. Once all 4 of them are down, we're going to make sure we're nice and true to our panel here, or as best we can, and then screw it all down as instructed. There, we got all 4 panels laid out where they need to be. What I'm going to do now, put our sealant on. Just going to put a nice bead of sealant between this panel and this panel, right on the edge. Now we're just going to lap these 2 panels together. Push them together. Okay, next we're going to get this panel. Now this is going to lap over here, and you'll see the holes kind of line up as you lap it over. Down there, like I say, you're going to see the holes line up. And just kind of adjust it as you go. Okay. Now for our last panel there, we're going to put a bead down here. Just like that. Then we're going to come across here because this panel is going to go on top of this. And one more little bead here because our panel is going to overlap this by one. And again, we're just going to line up these holes best we can here. Okay, now that we got all four panels kind of situated here, now you're going to make sure at the top of the plate here that this whole panel is flush with your top fascia board. We'll work our way around, make sure that's pretty good there. Now make sure this panel is right on the edge all the way down. If it's not, try to just shimmy it over a little bit. Get it as best you can. Now some of these boards are a little bit warped, and you might have a little bit of, you may not be true with your roofing panel, but get it as close as you can. You should end up with about a 1-inch overlap at the back, which I have here. At the bottom side of the roof, I should say. Okay, we are good to go. We're going to screw this whole thing down with the roofing screws provided. Okay, we got all this screwed down. So no screws at the lower part of the roof or on the very edge on both sides. Now we're going to put this edge on. Now this part's going to go on just like that with this ridge on the roof panel. Now the next roof panel is going to have the same thing with this ridge on it. Later on in the instructions, you'll see one of those pieces on each panel in between each roof panel. They don't go on the outside of the panels. So what I'm going to do is flip that upside down, put a bead of silicone in this valley here. We're going to flip that down, and then we're going to put our screws all along. Used almost one full tube of silicone for this whole panel. Now apply the strip here. Just kind of line up the holes. The holes are like every other hole. Give it a little bit of push there to get it in. All right, we're going to put every screw in, 12. First, I'm going to go every other hole. Then I'll go back, put the ones in between each hole in. All right, our middle panel's all done. Got a ridge on both sides. Now we're going to build our right panel almost the same way, only we're only going to have this strip on the one side. The outer side's not going to have it. Okay, by the time you get to your third panel, you kind of learn as you go. But what we found works the best, we'll put one screw in each edge. And what I do, I just make sure this is flush with the board as we go around. Just kind of hold it in place like that, flush. And then, okay, one person holds it, one person screws it in. That way, you got a better chance to get this square in the end. Good to have two people for this part. Okay, here you can see we got all three of our roof panels built and are ready to go onto the roof. Now, my brother came by to give me a hand here. We got the first panel vertical, slipped it up over that upper rail at the high side. Then between two people and a couple of ladders, it was actually pretty easy once you got most of the weight up on that upper rail. And once it was horizontal, it was pretty easy to move around with two people, one on each ladder. So once we got it resting on the rafters horizontally, we just slid it over. Boy, big thank you to my brother Jeff for coming by and giving me a hand with this. And here, just looking things over, we want to line up that hole in the rafter with the post so that when we lift that roof panel over the post, we both know where it needs to go. Here we just lifted it up, slid it over, put the weight of the roof on the post. Gave it another lift to put it in its final position. Once the panel's up, we put that bracket through. We got our bolt through. I'm not gonna tighten anything yet, but we have that on each one of these trusses, right up there, and one at the back. Once the next panel slides in, the next panel is gonna have a hole through here that lines up with this, and then we'll bolt them together to sandwich the two roof sections together. So much like the first panel, did the same thing, got it vertical, got it resting on that first rafter. Now, once most of the weight was up on that first rafter, I went around to the ladder to grab it from the other side. Here's where my brother can get up on his ladder, and then we can easily get that panel horizontal and slide it onto the roof. Now, in order to give us a little more room for that third panel, we took that middle panel and we overlapped it over the first panel just by a little bit to give us a little more room to work with when that third panel goes up. Now here's the part, you do things one time, you're learning, second time, you do it a little better. Now the third time, we should have this just a piece of cake here. So we're gonna lift this into place, no problem. Again, between the two of us here. Now this panel, we kind of rested on top of those posts a little further than what it needs to be to give us a little bit of room to get that middle panel back in place. Now we're setting our right final panel into place. Now between the middle panel and the right panel, we're a little bit tight, but once I lifted that middle panel just a little bit, it kind of fell into place, and it was just a matter of lining up all our bolt holes. Okay, here we have it. We got all three roof panels on. Now inside I went around and I tightened all our bolts, bolting down to the black rafter, and then all the bolts that are bolted through the trusses. Made sure all the bolts are tightened on our posts and all the brackets all the way around. Now I just went around. It has you screwing these small screws there, each roof panel together. There's a couple more screws over there. Now you see the position of these screws. The holes are pre-drilled. So as long as you find those pre-drilled holes, you just simply put the screws in where they belong. 12 screws for each roof panel. All right, now we got these pieces here. We're gonna fit that between the two strips that we put on each roof panel, and we'll slide that right through the whole roof. And then at this side, there's a connection, because this piece isn't long enough to do the whole roof. The other piece is gonna slide and fit in here. Fairly easy to slide in. Oh, I'm hitting in the center here. So I was shoving this piece in this way, but I was hitting that second roof panel there. So what I did, I went in from the high side down with the coupling in the middle, and I went past the roof panel because the upper panel is on top of the other one. I thought I'd have a better chance for that to travel past. Now, the second one that I'm gonna put in has this flat end. That's gonna go in first. And then this other end's gonna be on the low side of the roof. Okay, so I had trouble getting this piece to lock in to the coupling on the other piece. So what I did, I cut away this just to give it a little bit of a lead edge. And then I filed down all the sharp pieces, and the other one slipped right in. So I'm gonna do the same with this one. As far as sliding that panel in those grooves up the roof, no problem, slides real nice. Just where those two roofs meet ended up being a bit of a problem. That little lead that I cut off and just filed down those edges, made sure it's smooth, worked perfectly. Went in right inside the coupling, so good to go. All right, now we're installing our back fascia piece here. See the profile of this, you have a long end and a short end. The short end we're gonna fit just under the roof. This is gonna go under our fascia board. The instructions say to leave 1 1/8 between here and here. And we're gonna be fastening with number 8 by 3/4 sheet metal screws. So I got an 1.1 gap at one end, 1.8 at the other. Now here's the part where these two pieces are going to kind of overlap. There we are. We'll just screw everything in. All right, we got our fascia put on. Now this is going over top of the roof and down over the fascia. You see all those bolt holes in there. That's going to go in where on our last roof panel where we left out that row of bolts. We're going to line up this with the holes on the roof panels and just screw everything down with the roofing screws. Okay, we got our fascia put on. We got our drip edge put on over top of the shingles, going over our fascia. That's time to go on to the rest. Okay, I went around the whole thing, put all the fascia boards on. I put all the corner brackets in. Now the corner brackets are all labeled, back, front, right, left. It's pretty self-explanatory. Now for the final step, the most satisfying step of the whole build is to put the Yardistry sign up. There we have it, the final step, most satisfying part of the build right there. There we have it, the build is done. Now we worked through this build on very hot days the last couple days, but we got through it, we got it built. It's going to be so satisfying moving forward. I hope this video helps you. If you got a gazebo like this that you're building, a lot of little steps involved. I hope that I explained it right for everybody. All right, we'll see you on the next one. I need to thank my lovely wife for helping me out with this build. She doesn't like to be on camera, but she was sure a big help with this. And also a big thanks to my brother Jeff for coming out. He was a big help to help lift those roof panels into place.